Okay, hi, it's me again. I want to give you a little bit of a tutorial, as promised, on how to think about and analyze threats to internal validity in a study. This is again a topic from Chapter 9, but it applies to Chapter 10 as well, and we had one assignment related to it. I haven't read those assignments yet, but I'm guessing this is never an easy task, so I'm guessing that students usually the first time around struggle on this kind of assignment and thinking about how to analyze a study in terms of these threats. So let me give you a little bit of background. I've got about 6 slides here to try to go over this and give you a feel for what's meant when what is meant when you analyze a study in terms of threats to internal validity. And this is very common activity when you're reviewing studies, when you're evaluating them for publication, that sort of thing. And let's see where this goes. So I'm going to minimize myself down to the corner here. I don't think I'll be too much in the way of this presentation. So, what are threats to internal validity? Well, the book defines them as saying that internal validity in a study exists if the observed effects of the independent variable on the dependent variable are real and not caused by extraneous factors, or what we might call extraneous variables. Another way of thinking about this is internal validity refers to our confidence in the study, specifically our confidence that the IV, the independent variable, caused the changes in the dependent variable or the outcome variable, and conversely our confidence that the extraneous variables or extraneous factors did not cause changes in the DV. Right? So what are extraneous variables? Well, extraneous variables are possible causes other than the independent variable. In research, they are plausible alternative explanations for the results, reasons why you might have seen a pattern of results that were not due to the independent variable. As we'll see, true experiments are designed to rule out these extraneous variables, these alternative explanations. In other words, to make them no longer plausible as explanations for the results, leading you to conclude that, well, what caused the difference? Well, it had to be the independent variable. And as we get into the example, I'll try to demonstrate that a little bit more. What we're going to learn is that compared to true experiments, other designs offer lesser degrees of confidence that such explanations are plausible. And Chapter 9 has lots of examples of study designs. They categorize them as pre-experimental, experimental, and quasi-experimental. And these designs do a more or less better job at ruling out these alternative explanations for the results. So, this concept of extraneous variables is kind of, perhaps kind of, not ambiguous, but not clear at this stage, kind of vague. The question is, are there lists of common alternative explanations for study results? And the answer is yes. And in research, we call these threats, quote unquote, to the internal validity of a study. And box 9.1 provides one list of these threats, or one explanation of these threats. Some of them are very common across textbooks. Sometimes people expand on this list, but this is one very common list of common threats to internal validity, right? And they include things like history. Did something, is it possible that something could have happened, from the beginning of the study to the end of the study that accounted for the results other than your independent variable? Maturation. Could the participants by natural processes have changed from the beginning to the end of the study that they're different, they're older, they're taller, that sort of thing, which could have accounted for the results of your study. Things like that. And I'll go through a few more when we get into the example. Okay, one of the assignments that's related to this, and we're going to repeat this assignment this week with a different article. So I'll give you some examples from the article that was provided in the first iteration of this assignment. So I provided you an article. This is an article I did a few years back on an alcohol risk reduction program. But what the assignment asked you to do was to read that article, and for each of those listed threats in Table 9.1, indicate its likelihood of operation using the following scale: not likely, possible, or likely, and then provide a brief explanation of your rating. Why the threat was or was not likely or very likely, or whatever decision you said. Why was it possible that it was operating or not possible that it was operating? The article that I gave you was a particularly poor design in terms of ruling out threats to internal validity. It essentially used what the book described as a one-group pretest-postest design. Again, this was an evaluation. It was a program evaluation of a brief intervention for alcohol misuse. There was only one group, which meant that everyone received the treatment, and we essentially looked at changes from baseline, or what we called assessment, to 6-month follow-up in a number of drinking outcomes. And there's a lot of information on this slide, but this is kind of the standard representation of the one group pretest post-test design. This is some of the nomenclature that's used to show that kind of design in the legend. And so we have an observation at time 1, an observation at time 2, and all of the participants, because there's no second group here,